you will find the evidence for job shadowing in today's case. And once the service providers start working independently, then this is not the recipient's responsibility to again go and support the functioning at the service provider's end. But during that time, few experts from the service provider's end at the time of job shadowing, they actually very carefully and closely monitor the functioning of the existing process and how they possibly can be amended, improved. And so once they have gone, the experts from the service recipient ends, then the subject matter experts from the service provider end will be entirely responsible to support the activities. So there won't be any support from the service recipient's end after it is done during the phase of job shadowing. Outsourcing company maintains a retained organization who can sometimes offer some support. So they are not responsible to offer constant support to the service provider. And then it is service provider's responsibility. Then once we have seen the job, means knowledge transfer, then we try and understand the individual's responsibility, service recipient's responsibility, and the service provider's responsibility. First of all, in terms of service recipient's responsibility, it is essential, it is of essential importance that outsourcing company formulates their requirements unambiguously, both in initial contract and in any later adaptations. The responsibilities for the interfaces between the various business processes require especially good agreement. Like if you, as a service recipient, has outsourced multiple processes to the service provider, it is not only then the issue related to resolving and improving the business process that you have taken for providing service to, but it is also about how these individual independent business processes are going to work when they are integrated. And that problem is even more when you have given independent business processes to different service providers, right? So there you need to come to an agreement where you have to integrate all such processes in order to see how they work together without any hassle. Demand planning is the other aspect which needs to be taken with regard to service as a part of service recipient's responsibility. It must be executed well too, so that they are able to deliver and keep delivering up to contract. This holds equally for the short, medium, and long terms. But what exactly the demand planning is? Do you have any idea about what is demand planning? Forecasting, yeah? So it is mainly about forecasting the demand, how it is going to be in the future, in the short term, medium term, long term, and how prepared are you in order to deal with such demand forecast, whether you have the skilled workforce to manage all these demands which are expected right at the beginning of the contract. So you should be a good player to properly, efficiently plan the demand, the forecast in the future right at the time of contract signing. So on the short and medium terms, a rolling forecast may be used. The expected number of transactions for the next 6 months, a number that is adapted every month to fit a new 6-month period. So it is quite like, it's very easy to evaluate, identify and evaluate what different things which are expected, and the measure for such demand could be properly seen whether they are being fulfilled by the service providers or not. So This is called demand planning. It enables the provider to have enough capacity available right in the beginning when they decide the forecast about the demand planning. In the long term, the client must share their strategic planning with their provider, for which the provider may actually have input as well. So, I will talk in more detail about the strategic BPO later in the slides, but it is about strategic planning. Means the long-term planning, the long-term effective and efficient planning about how you are going to deal with the challenges coming, and 6 months down the line or a year down the line from the point where you have started it. Finally, outsourcing companies must pay much attention to the employees whose jobs are affected by outsourcing decision. Again, this is a part of recipient. Change management is needed, even though many outsourcing companies underestimate this need. What is change management here? How do you perceive it? What do you understand by saying change management with regard to service recipient? What kind of change management is required at the with regard to service recipient, and why do we need change management?
Just to minimize the conflict inside the organization. In terms of service recipient, the employees of the receiving company have to coordinate with the service providing company.
Yeah.
They have to sync with that.
Yeah, so that you are saying that there could be possibly two different ways you can consider change management is. One, within the organization, within the service recipient premises, and when you start communicating with your service provider. Yes, change management can be considered in both these ways. But what do you think how the change management will take in place when you consider the changes being occurred within the premises of the organization, service recipient, I mean? What kind of change, and why there is a need of managing those changes? Yes.
I think that, for example, if the recipient changes its strategy, for example, if the recipient changes its strategy with the time to have certain other functions in addition to those functions which are being served by the service provider, so that change has to be managed by the service provider. So I think that must relate to the change.
For example, what changes you are referring to?
Sir, for example, in business process outsourcing, we can have the let's say, for example, they are outsourcing the accounts department.
Yeah.
So in accounts department, if the company thinks that they are cutting down some of the services which are currently they are providing. So on that thing, the new software, new system has to be developed, and this change has to be done by the service provider.
Yeah, there could be different types of changes. Firstly, when you outsource any business process, this itself is a big change, and because of that, many different people are going to get in.
Whenever a company decides to outsource,
Yes.
the credibility and the accountability of any task from the side of an employee reduces. That makes them unsatisfied with the company employee.
Yes. That make them unsatisfied. At the same time, that also makes them a little bit unstable as well, right? Unstable in terms of what their role is going to be, where they are going to put in, whether they have enough expertise to deliver to the expectation of the organization in their new position and role, right? What kind of training and support will be provided to him? So all these, uncertainty, uncertainties are there around the outsourcing of business processes, and these change must be managed very effectively by the top management. If it is not managed, not monitored, and not controlled within time, that leads to, as you said, employees' dissatisfaction and eventually the employees' turnover, right? So in effect, you are losing your very skilled, very efficient set of employees. Probably they are not so useful for you because you are not involving them in undertaking and executing the processes, but they are skilled and experienced enough to put in, to execute other processes. And so all these uncertainties and changes which are taking place in the organization, within and across the organization, you have to very effectively manage it, and that management shouldn't go too long. It has to be done in a time constrained manner. If you don't take any initiative within the certain period of time, probably that leads to the employees' dissatisfaction and turnover. And so they are very, very important. Change management is needed, even though many outsourcing companies underestimate this need. It is now being acknowledged that one of the key factors of the success of outsourcing lies in introducing effective change management policy within the client organization. So it's saying that the client organization should have not only word of mouth, it should have the written policy legislation, how they are going to deal with those employees who have unfortunately nothing to do after the business processes have all been outsourced. So what is the legislation? What is the organization's policy about treating those employees, and where they are going to put in, so that the overall performance of organization is not going to impact it because of it. We are not, as an organization, you don't want to consider the underperformance of your organization in certain other departments where employees are going and they are not properly skilled, not experienced enough to perform the expected level of performance in the given task, right? So this is very, very important, and that's why change management is of paramount importance and relevance for any organization. Active application of change management is being advocated as the most important tool for accomplishing the necessary procedural change that is part of outsourcing. So these all were some of the responsibilities which which we perceive, we think that should be executed on the behalf of service recipient. Now, what do you expect the service providers to do when they are involved in business process outsourcing? A service provider's most important task is ensuring a qualitatively good service delivery. That's what you expect from service provider. Service providers must report to their client in monthly service management meetings, comparing the service levels agreed and the actual service delivered. And that's what you have a meeting every month or bi-monthly, whatever you have agreed on. You have to have a proper and continuous communication with the client, with your service provider, to know what kind of services are being provided to you, the quality of service, the timeliness of the service, and the further suggestion of improvement from the recipient side to make sure that next time when it is delivered, it is more improved and more quite matching to the expectation of not only the service recipient but also the customers, the stakeholders involved as a service recipient for that service or business processes. Decisive action must be taken if the agreed service levels have not been achieved. So if the agreed service levels are not achieved, means you are not following the service level agreements, and then the recipient has all the right to take any decisive action on the service provider. Another means toward maintaining excellent delivery quality is provider certification. Now, you probably initially go and opt for the service provider only based on its it's brand familiarity, or known for top few service providers, whatever be the reason. But at the very bottom line for selecting the service provider is that you make sure that the service provider is one leading provider which can provide you service in that area, and that is certified also through some sort of certification because it's very difficult at times just by going through the blogs and the reviews that this service provider is quality service provider. So if they have got certain certification which certifies, which indicates and which reinforces that this service provider is a quality provider in order to provide service for this given certain set of business processes, you go ahead with that. So this is service provider's responsibility to demonstrate, to put it forward the kind of certifications that they have got, to demonstrate, to showcase that they are good at their services. And that could be the basis for a recipient to go and contact the service provider. The service providers, in fact, outsourcing companies have often included the certification of their suppliers as an essential element for the quality assurance systems. The service providers will, of course, have to ensure that the promised cost savings are really made, and that's what the core of this entire business process agreement is. Team members who are promoted and thus get pay rises become more expensive for the client. How they become more expensive? Like they are talking in terms of service providers, employees. If they are promoted, their salary is going to be increased. So how it could be? They will charge from the client. So then what is the service provider? What ought to be the service provider's responsibility here to make sure that whatever level of agreement was agreed, they are not going to come back again to the client saying that you need probably to change the contract, make it more lucrative because now we have more experienced people, they have got promoted. That you probably not expected to come back and say it. So what is the responsibility of service provider in that case? How they can still manage with the same cost without making any further hassle in the mid of service provisioning? Not quite laying off, but transferring, yes. Transferring could be a viable solution, not quite laying off. You cannot, I'm not expecting that as soon as I get promoted, I'll be laid off by my company, right? Any employees, whether the employees are promoted. So you cannot simply lay off employees because you have to maintain that agreement, right? So the very viable solution is to try and mix and match the employees. So if let's say you have promoted few employees, you have increased their salaries, then try and put either some of those employees into the other business process outsourcing projects, or you can probably take some of the lower wages employees and put them there, so that because they have become more skilled, they got promoted, they probably don't need that much of support. So you can reduce the team, reduce the size, looking after the business process, and can still maintain the same level of cost that was expected at the service level agreement, isn't it? So it is called replacement, which is called pyramid structure of the team in balance, and that's called pyramid refreshment. It's not saying that you just lay them off, but you can change, mix and match, make the team balanced in terms of, not only in terms of cost effectiveness, but also in terms of expertise and skills level. This does involve transferring knowledge to the new members, the cost of which must be taken in consideration too. Finally, providers may be expected to make innovative proposals for increasing their added value. So, yeah, proposal can always be improved, can always be made innovative, be made attractive so that it can present the more feasible, optimized solution for the service recipient. And this is, service provider's responsibility. Still, for providers, this is not an easy task, since similar services are delivered to other clients, particularly when you have a big service provider where you believe in providing the inbuilt off-the-shelf services to the multiple clients. You don't want to make innovation for individual business processes, because this is not that you are doing it for one. You have to do it for a collective package. So it's not that easy. It is difficult at times, and it is only feasible when you are providing individual customized services to independent clients. But when it comes to provide the off-the-shelf innovation package, off-the-shelf inbuilt packages, it's not that feasible. Combining innovation and confidentiality with cost effectiveness therefore requires a certain amount of agility. So that's what all the recipients tend to get from their service providers: innovation, confidentiality, and cost effectiveness. And if you have to act on it, if you want to compete in the market, you don't need to wait until the point where your competitors have done this. So you have to be quick, relatively quick. If you want to implement all these into one package, you need to be quick in order to attract your recipients, the outsourcing company. So these were some of the facts related to the risks, the recipient's responsibility and provider's responsibility. Now, I would like to present some of the key facts about the BPO industry, the current states of the BPO industry in India. In India, BPO is the fastest growing segment of information technology enabled services industry. Okay? Factors such as economy of scale, business risk mitigation, cost advantage, utilization improvement, and superior competency have all led to the growth of the India BPO industry. Yeah? This is what we have been talking about, the offshore BPO, even the general outsourcing companies. These are the key that you need to provide. And India, until now, is able to provide all these factors by which it is able to attract the key outsourcing companies from across the world, particularly from North America and Western Europe, for all different business processes, for all different types of activities. So India is now the world's favored market for the BPO companies, among other competitors such as Australia, China, Philippines, and Ireland. So they are the other, big competitors for India in terms of BPO industry. Have you heard of Nasscom? What it is? What kind of body is this? National Association of Software Services and Companies. Yeah? So that is a kind of monetary body for the corporate, particularly the software companies, software services companies, and other few companies. And as per the research of Nasscom, it has been revealed that quality orientation among leading BPO companies, 24/7 services, India's unique geographic location, and the investor-friendly tax structure have all made the BPO industry in India very popular. So this is one research by Nasscom, why India is a popular destination for BPO industry. Now you must be wondering about, when we talk about Indian BPO industry, what kind of services they provide, what different types of services. We know whenever it comes to BPO, industry in India, the only things that comes to our mind is call center, right? But it is not, yes, call center is the majority stake when it comes to BPO in India, and this is possible only because we have highly skilled people, not only highly skilled people, but also, people who are very proficient in communication, right? They can speak English, they can make the customers across the world, no matter they are coming from America, England, Europe, they can, satisfy their needs, their expectation, they can answer the exact queries raised by the customer, and that's why we are very proficient of. Moreover, we have also the capability to produce, and we are doing it constantly, about 2.5 million people getting graduate degree in the different professional courses. So they are very much skilled right from the beginning, and they can be straight launched to those industries without any much formal training needed. So that's the reason why Indian call center is one of the leading call center businesses in the world. But it is not necessarily only related to just satisfying the customer calls. There are more than that, and that's why these are the services, key services which are offered through BPO companies. Customer support service, that's what we call it as call center, 24/7 call center services that address customer queries and concerns through phone, email, and live chat. That's what we do through customer support. Technical support also we do, and that's why you see, majority of the graduates coming out of the colleges, and when they don't find the proper software development job, they are put into the call centers, not just to satisfy the customer, but to resolve the technical problems faced by the customer at the remote places by the different companies across the world. And where we definitely need the technically skilled people who are well equipped with the technical knowledge, and that's why the fresh graduates get opportunity early on. So installation, product support, running support, troubleshooting, user support, and problem resolution for computer software, hardware peripherals, and internet infrastructure. All these are provided through technical support services. Then telemarketing, right? Even some of the graduates who have just finished their MBA program, BBA program, they are observed for doing all sorts of job because they are very well skilled in terms of understanding the nitty-gritty, the basics of business, and they also know the technical aspect of how to do the business, because even in today's business curriculum we have the information systems related module, we have the digital marketing where we know how to do marketing through all digital means. So interacting with potential customers, creating interest for the customer service products, upselling, promoting, cross-selling to existing customers, and completing online sales processes, they all can be done by the young graduates. Do you know what is the concept of upselling? Because most of you are linked to the business and management. Upselling and cross-selling of the product, and yeah, upselling and cross-selling. So as a business student, I think you should be acquainted of these terminologies. Upselling, yes.
Persuade the customer to buy some additional products.
This is upselling or cross-selling?
Upselling.
Additional products. For example, can you tell me any instance?
Any auxiliary product is like if we take the example of mobile.
Yes.
So any auxiliary product that comes with a mobile, so it may be provided
SIM
by
card or anything like that if you want. But this is not upselling, this is cross-selling. Yeah. What is upselling then? You are right, but this is cross-selling. Like any auxiliary product that you are able to persuade, convince customer that this is an offer. If you go, you are going to buy SIM independently, you probably cost 100 rupees. But if this is an offer with the mobile phone, if you purchase, I can give you in 20 to 30 rupees. So that's, you are managing to sell the related products along with the key product and still getting the profit. So that's called cross-selling. But what about upselling? Yes.
So within my
A smartphone, yeah, that's called upselling. So I have, as a customer, I have stepped into the store making my mind that I'm not going to purchase any phone more than 5,000 rupees. I'm not going, ought to be a simple phone. I'm not going to, at any circumstance, I'm not going to buy any smartphone. But the salesperson in the store has somehow convinced me that, just by expanding your budget by 2,000-3,000 more, you will get all this plethora of features in the phone. And somehow, if I got convinced and if I go for the upgraded product, that's called upselling. So, we are expert in it. Yeah, we are the victim of our own expertise and skills because we often change our mind when we go to the store, right? So that's why we are very good in telemarketing services as well. IT help desk services are also one service which is under the BPO industry. Level 1 and 2 multi-channel support, system problem resolution, technical problem resolution, office productivity tool support, answering product users queries, and performing remote diagnostics. So you phone me, and I'll tell you on phone how to actually resolve the issues in your system, how to properly install certain software package, all that. This is called IT help desk support. Insurance processing is also done through BPO industry. Data entry, data processing, data conversion services. Like if you want to convert the data for research and development processes, right? Say the data from the survey is collected in the Word file or in, let's say, the Excel file, and if that has to be converted into the SPSS file from where you would be able to properly analyze it, that could be can well be taken by the software provider, BPO software provider, and they have some automated tools by which they can quickly convert the data into the other format. So data conversion services could well be outsourced. Bookkeeping and accounting services, these are standard services. Form processing services, online form processing, payroll processing, medical billing, insurance claim forms and all. So these all are different types of BPO companies which are being operated in India. Online research also being done in India. So what kind of online research? Let's say you are a PhD scholar, you are an MBA scholar, MBA student, doing some sort of research as a part of your project or as a part of your thesis, and you want to collect some data. If you go random to collect data from the respondents, they probably won't be interested to provide you response, right? So there are companies who take responsibilities, will charge you about, in India, I don't know, about 20-30 rupees for one response, and they have a database of clients, and they, out of 30 rupees they have charged you for providing one response. They give it to the client 10 rupees, and they get the response from there, and they will, whatever number of data you want from there, they will be able to deliver you in a certain time. So that is also done through the BPO, through the BPO research. There is one company which has been currently coming up, Airbnb. Have you heard of Airbnb? Yeah, they have. I have heard that they have also got this business where they are responsible for providing you whatever data you want from the number of recipients, whether you want from students or employees or organization, a specific organization. They have used database, and they will give you exactly the same nature of data as you expect, but they charge you for something, for each data that they collect for you. So this is called online research. Interesting facts about Indian BPO industry. The BPO sector in India is estimated to have reached a 54% growth in revenue. The demand for Indian BPO services has been growing at an annual growth rate of 50%. BPO industry in India has provided jobs for over 2.8 million people. This number is continuing to grow on a yearly basis, although this data is about 3-4 years old, but they are definitely on their upward trend in terms of employing, because it's proliferating the BPO industry in India like anything. Annual revenues are around $11 billion, around 1% of GDP, Indian GDP. Interesting facts about the industry is 70% of India's BPO industry revenue is from the contact centers or the call centers, 20% of data entry work, and the remaining 10% from information technology related work, right? So this is how the statistics at the moment. So that's why we think that BPO is nothing but call centers, because most of them are call centers only. Indian BPOs handle 56% of the world's business process outsourcing, and that's why we are world leader. Until this point in time, nobody has been able to beat us in terms of providing services across all different companies in the world, and all different types of services, as you have seen. Nasscom recently conducted a survey and evaluated the leading service providers across India. The top 15 BPO companies are, so these are some of the top leading companies. I don't know how many companies you know from this list, but there are some of the leading companies who provide business process outsourcing related solution. WNS, Wipro, Daksh e-Services, Convergys. I don't know why this one is not coming. I have listed. Yeah, so the top 15, these are some of the other companies: HCL, Genta, FirstSource, Mphasis, EXL, Trackmail, GTL Limited, V-Customer, HTMT, 24/7 Customer, and Sutherland Technologies. These are some of the top 15 countries in India which provide a number of different business process outsourcing solutions. So based on that, we can conclude that companies will increasingly go beyond IT services outsourcing towards business process outsourcing, and this will not only involve support process but also parts of the strategic and even core processes as well. Such collaborative patterns are characterized as partnerships, and they will search for the best partners available. An interesting question then arises is that usually remains unanswered as well, is the concerns that the implications of outsourcing one core processes. Now, based on what you have learned today, can you tell me, can a company who does so, an interesting question that usually remains unanswered, concerns the implications of outsourcing one's core processes, we are saying. Can a company who does so, means the company which does outsource its core processes, maintain its position in the market? Can they keep fulfilling their relations with their own clients? What do you think? If as an outsourcing client, if you are delegating your core processes to the service provider, the question is whether can a company, as a company who does so, maintain its position in the market if you are outsourcing your core processes? Because, as a company, you always work in the ecosystem, the environment, where there are many other companies in the same sector or across the sector competing with you. So do you think that when you delegate your core processes, go to service provider, you can still maintain your position in the market? And can you keep fulfilling your relation with your own clients? Do you agree with this or not? Yeah? So this is your responsibility. Customer doesn't care whether you have outsourced it or not. They want the seamless service delivery. If they are not, whether no matter you have opted for probably world's best outsourcing service provider, they don't care. They are not going to go with you. So you have to decide as a company whether you want to let your core processes go to the service provider, or you want to take the alternative routes, and that's what the big companies do, and we have already discussed it in more details at length. So that is up to you, right? And what does all of this mean for government organization? Like if the same thing being done by the government, because we haven't yet talked about what happens if the government organization outsources its business to some service providers. So whether they would be able to do in the same way as the other corporate companies, corporate world do, or they are going to take a different route. And if anything different, why should they take that different route, and what could be its implications, do you think? Because we haven't talked about government. Do you think anything that might come to their way when they try and adopt the same thing as any other company does? What factors can drive, can hamper them from doing exactly the way the other private limited companies do? Okay. Yeah.
The employees' dissatisfaction. If they outsource anything, the government enrolled employees get dissatisfied.
Yeah. And this is not like any other company. No matter you are a small government, a state government, or the central government, you cannot lay off your employees, yes, right? Otherwise, you have to give all the compensation for your employees. What are the things that might come its way?
So the bureaucracy also.
Bureaucracy, yes.
The tall structure of government organizations.
Yes, the structure of the government organization and the politics around it. You see, even triple in a small issue, how big proportion they are going to be escalated by the opposition. And you can't think of, if the business processes are going to be outsourced, there will be lots of hues and cries by the opposition, and they won't be able to do it effectively. So, it could be possible, but possibly because of the sensitivity of the processes as well, because you don't want the government sensitive information to go to any individual service provider because of politics, because of the other reasons that you have said. It's not that easy to outsource business processes. So partly it is dealt in by NICs. Have you heard of National Informatics Center? Like their IT services are managed. They don't give it to any private, they give it, but only when they are not able to do it within NIC. Then they sometimes outsource it to Wipro or TCS mega projects, but largely they try and do it within their own, branch or other wings, government wings, rather than letting it go to the private hands because of all the different issues that might arise. Governments may be expected to be more reticent than commercial enterprises in this field. So these are some of the reasons for which, even if you go and try and explore the research literature, you will hardly find any literature related to the business process outsourcing from the government. So these are some of the issues, and with this, we wind up today's discussion on business process outsourcing, and I urge you to come up with any questions that you might have. And in the meantime, we will also take 10 minutes break before we come back to start our case study for today. And we have today 2 hours for our case study, but we are not going to take that much time. Although the case study is very long, it might take you, some time to go through and understand it. But today I will also request you that while you are going through the case study, you first go through it, and anywhere if you think about the terminology or anything that you are not able to understand, you just ask me and we can discuss and then clarify your doubts. Yeah? Yeah?
You said that government organization follow BPO model. How is it different from P model that many government organization follow?
So, for example, what you are referring, which government organization you are referring to?
Most of the government organization follow P model for their activities.
Point to point. What is that?
Public-private partnership.
Okay, yeah.
So how it is different from this BPO model if they go for this?
Public-private partnership model, I'm not quite sure about how it is different from BPO model, because I have not quite seen the BPO model of the government organization. But public-private partnership, can you give any instance of such public-private partnership, and then probably I'll be able to.
For conducting IBPS exams in India, government gives TCS contract to TCS.
Yeah.
And for this institution, for constructing any building or anything, this institution give contract to private partners.
Means TCS?
Yes.
Okay.
No, any other contractor. Private companies are also included with the government to complete any project.
Why it is so? Because possibly the government has not enough workforce to deal in with such situation. And I think, why it is not possibly done through in context of BPO is largely because of the reason that government firstly doesn't want to reveal its information. No matter what business processes, I don't know what different business processes we can think about the government, whether at the state level or at the central level. But as per the literature and the research being conducted, it is very obvious from here that largely it is because of politics, but there are very many inherent reasons for that. And that's the reason why BPO models are not quite successful until now for the government. And I don't know how the governments are taking initiatives toward even thinking of developing any BPO model in the future. I'm not sure.